to explain one important feature, that is servlet lifecycle. So what is lifecycle and how the servlet lifecycle happens, I'm going to explain in detail with the example. Okay, so before that I would like to explain something like what I have discussed. Like first I have discussed how to develop servlet application by using the HTTP servlet, by using the servlet API and generic servlet. Three ways we can develop the servlet application. But the but directly or indirectly we can develop servlet. Actually, there is actually one way by implementing the servlet API. Okay, but we are using generic servlet and HTTP another two ways. Okay, that means we are indirectly using the servlet API, servlet interface to develop the servlet application. Okay, this is the three ways I have explained. So if I say we have what we have three ways to develop the application. Okay, so servlet, first one is servlet API. Servlet, this is the interface. Okay, servlet interface, which is responsible, which is responsible to provide the life cycle of the servlet application. Okay, servlet application. So there is a servlet container which is responsible for loading and instantiating the servlet. Okay, what do you mean by that? Okay, we have let me tell you, we have the servlet interface. So there are total three lifecycle methods. One is init. Init is first method, and then service, then third one is destroy. Okay, destroy. These are the first init, then service, then destroy. These are the three these are the three lifecycle methods that is provided by the servlet API. Okay, so whenever, let me tell you the scenario, what will happen when. Okay, let me tell you. I have told init method. What do you mean by init method, and what is the purpose of that? Okay, so let us consider one example. Like okay, let me tell you one thing. This is our server. Okay, this is our server is nothing but what is that? Tomcat server. Okay, this is our Tomcat server. So whenever we start this Tomcat server, what it will do, we wrote our servlet application. Like in our case, we have written fast servlet, the second servlet and third servlet. First servlet is from implementing the servlet interface, second servlet from the, what is that, by extending the generic servlet, and third servlet is by extending the HTTP servlet. Okay, so once we wrote our servlet, so that will be deployed inside the this first servlet, then second servlet, then third servlet. So three servlet here will deploy inside the which one? The servlet container. Servlet container is there inside the web server. For in our case, that is Tomcat, we are taking the as a server. Inside that servlet container, inside the servlet container, we are deploying our servlet. Okay, so this is the servlet container. Okay, in the servlet, inside the servlet container, whenever we start that our Tomcat server, then the whatever the servlet we have 1 2 3, whatever the servlet we have. For example, I have written 1 2 3, that is the first servlet, second servlet and third servlet. We are configured inside the web.xml, multiple servlet we can configure, right? So whenever we start that servlet like server, then this servlet, whatever the servlet we have inside that, so all these servlets will load, and servlet context object servlet context object servlet object will be created. Okay, servlet object will be created, and this servlet container, that is responsible to call the init method. What is that? First method is init method. init method will be called by the servlet container. Okay, clear up to this? So in this init method, what we are going to provide, like we can think of, we are communicating with the JDBC application. Okay, inside the JDBC application, we are configuring our URL, driver, class name, username, password, all these things we are configuring. Okay, so all these things we need to pass. Okay, whenever we start the server, these stuffs will be loaded. Right, we are providing the key value pair. Okay, the username, password, all these key value pair, that will be loaded whenever in our application we are using, then that will be utilized. Okay, that is a one-time process. And servlet object, whatever that is created on the time of server startup, or this one or server startup, then that object will be like used throughout the request. Okay, so that is the init method I have told. Then another method is the service method. Service service method. What is the job of the service method? Whenever the client, here is the client, this is the client, this is the client. Okay, this is the client. This client will give the request to the server. Once the request comes to the server, then server, what it will do, the service method of the servlet API will take the request, take the request from the server, and process whatever the logic we have written inside the service method of the servlet. Then that method will be executed, and then once that is processed, then the response will be sent back to the whom, so send back to the client. Okay, this is the request and response. Okay, once we are done with the job, or we are stopping the server, whenever we are running our server, Tomcat server, and once we stop the server, or we once we have deployed our servlet application we have deployed, then once we undeploy our servlet application from the server, then in that case we have the another method is the destroy method. I have told three lifecycle method: init, service, and destroy. Okay, and destroy method will be called by the servlet container. This destroy method will be called at the time of server stop or on deployment of the servlet. Okay, I will explain through the example. You will better understood. You will better understand whenever I will give the write the application. Okay, so it may be the init method may be the init method will be like init method will be executed for the first time at the time of the server startup or the fast request. I will show you the two cases, that is the server startup, when in which scenario the init method will be executed on the by giving the fast request, or server startup itself. Okay, I will cover both the scenario. Okay, just for the theory purpose, just remember these things, in which scenario which will be executed. Okay, then for the fast request, once the if it is the case the fast request everything init method and service method executed, then for the remaining all the method like second method, second request, third request, all this whatever the request will give, then for that only service method will be executed, not the init method. Okay, so that I will explain. So for each request, the servlet container will create one thread. So servlet container implemented inside that is implemented inside the thread concept. So each one thread will be executed. Okay, and each request will be response separately, right, by the thread. Okay, up to this that is clear, right? So I have explained servlet lifecycle method, that is init method, service method, and destroy method. Three method that belongs to servlet interface API. Okay, so whenever we are implementing the servlet application by implementing the servlet interface, then the three lifecycle method and two non-lifecycle method we have to implement. Okay, so there are two scenario in where we can execute the init, and we can load that servlet, the servlet container will load the servlet class, and create the object of the servlet, whatever the servlet. Okay, let me write and demonstrate so that you can understand. Two scenario. One, whenever we will give the request from the client, that time the init method will execute. That is for the fast request. Whenever we are giving the client giving the fast request, that time the init, the class will be the class, the init method will execute, and the for the request service method also will execute. But we will configure something. Then in that case, whenever the user will give the fast request, obviously it will takes more time than the subsequent second request, third request, fourth request, right? So in order to avoid that, so in that case what we can do, we can configure something to make whenever we start our servlet, that time itself the class will be loaded, and the servlet context will call the init method. Whatever the initialization logic, initialization code we need, for example JDBC code we need for the database communication, so that should be loaded whenever the servlet is we start the application, we start the server. Okay, so that whoever whenever that is the one time process that is loaded, and subsequently in the code wherever required we can use the JDBC details, right, like username, password, driver name, all these things. Okay, so here I am developing one servlet lifecycle. Okay, servlet lifecycle. This is the servlet implement servlet interface. Okay, servlet interface. So we have to implement, so let me implement all these methods. So init, get servlet config, get servlet service, get servlet info, destroy. Okay, three methods are, as I have told, three methods are the this one the lifecycle method, and another two are non-lifecycle method. Okay, so just to check the flow, I'm writing the SOP statement. I am inside init method. Okay, let me copy these things, and servlet config not required, servlet and this one, and destroy. And destroy method, whenever destroy method will execute whenever we manually stop the server or undeploy the application, that time the destroy method will execute. What is the job of this init method? The init method will perform the initialization logic, as I have said, the JDBC code. Okay, for the time being. And what is the purpose of service method? Service method will whatever the request user will send, means the client will send to the server, that request is taken by the service method, and whatever the code that is there inside the service method, that will be executed, and as a response, the response will be sent back to the client. Okay, so I am inside service method, I am inside destroy method. Okay, let's start this. Okay, servlet configuration, also deployment descriptor we have to write. What is the tag? Servlet name, my servlet life cycle. Okay, this is the servlet name. Okay, then servlet class. What is that class? com dot precursor dot servlet lifecycle. Okay, cool. Then the servlet mapping. So what is the servlet mapping? The servlet class name is this one, and URL is I have already lifecycle. Okay, so lifecycle, then this should be this one. Okay, that's all. Let me run this application. Run servlet. Okay. So what I have told, there are two scenarios. I have run the application. I will show one scenario, then again another scenario I will show when the init method. In this I have not configured anything, so it has not when I started the servlet. I started the server. Okay, so the class is so the init method, the class is not loaded in this time at this time. So what it will do? what it will do, whenever we will give the request, fast request, okay, fast request. So let me give the fast request, okay. Yeah, okay. So I have given the I will give the fast request. This is the welcome file. Once I click this, the servlet lifecycle, the hyperlink, and the this from this browser, the fast request will hit to the server. Okay. Then the what I as I have told, the servlet class will be loaded, and this one, the object of the servlet container will be executed, and this one, what is that, service method also execute. Okay, so I have put it inside init method, and this is service method. If I will refresh again, only service method will be executed. Init method, the job of the init method to perform the initialization logic, that should be executed only once throughout the the life cycle. Okay, for the subsequent request, only the service method is ready for the to take the subsequent request. Okay. Okay, if I refresh, I have refreshed two times. The service method another two times it will be executed. Total three times. So you can see, as you can see, service method before it was executed one time. I have two times I have executed. So service method executed two times. Okay. So for the initialization, the object is created or not. So let me put write one constructor here so that we can understand, like whenever we start the this one, we start the server, uh, then at that time constructor is calling or not, means object is created or not, constructor is called. Okay. Okay, the one scenario I have explained. So if we give the fast request, then at that time the class is loaded, and this one, the init method is executed, the service method is executed. Okay, for the subsequent request, only the service request is executed. Okay, for the next another scenario, whenever there is a concept like load on startup. If I write load on startup 1 by default, so not by default, so we here I have configured only one servlet. So in an typically in an application there may be might be like several servlet, like login servlet, registration servlet, so many servlets will be there. So we can configure many servlet inside this. So so load on startup, we can give the integer value 1 2 3 4, something like whoever have the least number, that will be that will be loaded fast into the memory, so by the servlet container. Okay, if I hover on this, so you can see, if you read uh, description, the load on startup element indicates the servlet should be loaded, instantiated, and have its init called. Okay, the servlet will be initialized, instantiated, and then the init method is called by the servlet container. Okay, and all other things are like about the integer value it is mentioned. You can read this one. Okay, so let me stop and run. Once I run, due to this load on start property, what it will do, once I run this server, then this constructor will be called, means the object of the constructor, it will be called, the class is loaded, class will be loaded, and the object will be created. Once object is created, this constructor will be called, right? The object creation. Then init method also will be executed. These two will be executed on server startup. Let's see whether it is executing or not. Okay, as I have said, you see class loaded, constructor is called, and inside the in okay, inside the init method. Okay, that is the typo mistake. Okay, fine. The constructor, the object is created, and init method is called by the servlet container. The two step, it is done. Now the init method, once the init method of the lifecycle init method is called by the servlet container, on the next request, the the init method will never execute again. So if I give request on the API, means for the first time, then what will happen, only the service method will be executed. Okay, it will open the home page. So inside the fast request will be given on clicking on this servlet lifecycle. Okay, I have given the fast request. So see, only the service method is executed. You know difference before what we have executed on the fast request. This was called. Okay, constructor called means the object is created and init method called. Then the service method executed on the fast request. But here once we configure the load on startup and running the server, then this step performed first, then for the every request for the every user the time will be remain same. Okay, to give the performance wise, like for the every request, like the same time, like I mean to say, like for the every request the time, the execution time will be same, the performance will be same. Okay, so if I refresh again, two times, three times I have executed. So three times service method will be executed. You know, service method three times it is executed. So I hope you have clear about the servlet lifecycle, right? Okay. So then in the next class we'll come up with a new topic. Okay. Till then, bye bye.